guys, it's Kasara, and today I'm going to be doing my June book haul. So unlike my May book haul, which I really didn't buy that many books in May, I actually did buy a lot of books in June, like quite a lot of them, but there are quite a lot of fantasy books, which I'm really excited for. I'm so excited for this book haul. Just a quick disclaimer, a lot of these books were bought on Book Outlet. This was before the whole scandal that happened earlier this month, and it just took, 3 weeks for these books to arrive because that's how long it takes for Book Outlet to deliver their books. So in the future, I do plan on not buying from Book Outlet because I'm really disappointed in Book Outlet as a company, not only because of that, but because they messed up my order also, so I ended up getting the wrong book, and the book that I wanted, I actually really wanted. It was a book that was gonna be on my TBR for July, and my library doesn't have it, and it's not available on Amazon either. So I was really angry about it, so yeah. But I do have quite a few books for them still because I already got the order. So out of the like 30 or so books that I have for this book haul, 5 of them are not fantasy books. So we're gonna start with the 5 not fantasy books before we get into all the fantasy books, because let's face it, that's what I live here for. I want the fantasy books, but we'll talk about the non-fantasy books first. And of course, that means we're gonna be talking about my book of the month order. So these are the books that I picked out for my book of the month order this month. I do realize recently there's been like an influx of booktubers talking about Book of the Month Club. I am not in any way affiliated with Book of the Month Club. I just order from them a lot. It's one of the few subscription services that I actually like. There is a referral link in the description. That's one of like the invite your friends referral link. I'm not partnered with them or anything like that, is what I'm trying to say. The book that I picked for my Book of the Month book is The Last Flight by Julie Clark. I actually had a really hard time picking the book because like every one of them I thought was really interesting. Then I was just like, you know what? I've been reading a lot of historical and literary fiction from Book of the Month recently, so let me look at the mysteries, thrillers, and romance because that's what's been working for me recently. And I decided to go with the thriller. I thought it was one of the most interesting concepts because it's about a person who switches flights with someone and then the other plane crashes. So she just has this new identity and like it's basically like a reset for her life, and I think it's great. It's a great concept that I'm really excited to read about. And did I mention I was having trouble picking the book for this month? Because I had 2 add-ons, because you can add 2 books from each book month from the past like books, or you can add another one from the same one. So I decided to add another one. And I decided to pick up One to Watch by Stayman-London. If you watch some of my more recent reading vlogs, I did actually finish this one already. This one is about a plus-size fashion blogger who decides to go on a reality TV show that is basically the same thing as like The Bachelorette. It was sweet and cute, and I ended up giving it 4.25 stars. I enjoyed it. I read it in like 48 hours. It was just like, it's a fun, fast novel. It wasn't as hard-hitting as I was hoping it would be, but it was still really good. I enjoyed this. A little bit of a cover vibe too, because let's face it, the color scheme here just attracts my attention, if you know what I mean. And the last one that I decided to pick is The Things You Save in a Fire by Katherine. So this is one that has been catching my eye for the longest while. It's about firefighters, but it's about a female firefighter. This is of course an industry in which men are very dominant in, and our main character is transferred to a different firehouse in which the culture is very different than her last one. But anyways, this is one that I've heard pretty good things about that I've been wanting to try also. Now, mind you, there were 3 other books from the Book of the Month Club picks that I was really interested in. I might be adding them on to my next month book box because like there were a lot that I really wanted to choose that I didn't get to. So the next book that I decided to pick up was Wild Seed by Octavia E. Butler. So Octavia E. Butler is potentially a new favorite author of mine. I read a book by her last week. She's a like science fiction author that is a pioneer of Afrofuturism, which is really interesting to me. I picked up her book Dawn, which is the first book in the Xenogenesis series. Wow, it blew me away. I did not know what to expect going into it, but one thing I realized is I love the writing. She has some really beautiful writing. I like the way that she articulates herself and how she creates images and all of that, and just like the emotional journeys and all of that, I think were really well done. And I'm excited to see more of her work. So this one was on sale on Amazon. So I was just like, you know what? I kind of want to get it. It's about spirits. Like there's ancient spirits. One of the ancient spirits thinks he's the only one, but then there's another one, and like it's like a love story. So that's kind of cool. That's actually really, really cool because they're like most powerful beings that people don't know about. Anyways, I'm really excited for this one. So the next book that I decided to pick up is The Dark Side of Nowhere by Neal Shusterman. So every time I see Neal Shusterman's name, I just automatically go, would I like that book? It sounds like I would like that book. I don't know, this one was really catching my eye, so I just decided to get it. If you've read this book, let me know, because I don't actually know what this book is about, but it really caught my eye, so that's why I decided to pick it up. Now we're gonna move on to the fantasy books, and there are a lot of them. I'm gonna try and start with like the younger age ranges and then work my way up to adult. First book we have is Blackbringer by Laini Taylor. So not last year, the year before, I think, I read Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor and absolutely loved it because of her writing. She has some of the most beautiful writing that I've ever read, and I've been meaning to read more books by her. Blackbringer is one of her lesser known titles from before she was as popular as an author, and I've actually heard quite a few good things about it. This series is actually really hard to find. My library only has the ebooks of them, and if you guys have seen my channel at all, you know I have a really hard time picking up ebooks. Even if it's a book that I really want to read, I forget to pick it up a lot, so I decided to get the physical copy of it, and I'm excited to read this one. I think this is one that I could potentially really, really love, or potentially really not like. It's one of those books that's going to be either a complete hit or a complete miss for me, but I'm excited to find out which one it is. And if in case you are wondering, this book is about fairies. It is the first book in the Fairies of Dreamdark duology. So the next book that I decided to pick up is Blue Sword by McKinley. McKinley is an author that I've heard quite a bit about, but I have never picked up any of her books, and the one that I've heard the most about is The Blue Sword, so I decided to get it. I don't know very much about it other than it's a high fantasy novel by an author that I've heard a lot of good things about, so I wanted to try her work, and this is the book that I've been recommended, so I'm excited to try it. Next, I decided to get 4 of the 5 books in the Dark is Rising series by Susan Cooper, which includes Oversea and Understone, Dark is Rising, The Grey King, and Silver on the Tree. So this series is one that I actually started when I was a kid. When I was a kid, for some reason, I was told that it was an adult series. Now that I'm an adult, for some reason, it looks like a children's series. Like, I don't know, but like when I was a kid, I remember starting the series, but my library only had one of the books, and it was The Grey King, which is like the 4th or the 5th book in the series. So I was just like, you know what, I need to start with the first book. And like, then I just didn't continue on because I was like, oh, that's an adult fantasy series. It's not a children's fantasy series. I want to read kids books. And now that I'm an adult, it's like, it's a kids fantasy series. Like, what? But anyways, I'm interested in this. This is one that I've been interested in for a long time. I don't know too much about it, but it seems like a very good classic fantasy series that I'm excited to read. I believe this one is also an award-winning series, so I'm excited for that. I don't know if you guys can hear the rain or the thunder or anything like that, but I live in Florida and it's the afternoon and it's summer, so it's gonna rain every day, so I'm really sorry, but I gotta film through it. I also decided to get 2 of the books in the Bound Gods novel by Rachel Dunne, which includes In the Shadow of the Gods and The Shattered Sun. So these are both books that I've had my eye on for a while. The covers themselves, they're just such fantasy covers that I've like, every time I look at them, I'm just like, oh, what is happening in this scene right there? So like, I'm really excited for them. I don't know anything about them. I have heard a couple people talking about them on BookTube, but I don't remember what they said, to tell you the truth. But there are ones that have been on my radar for a while, so that's why I decided to finally pick them up. And I'm really excited to get to these. The next book that I decided to pick up is Wildwood Dancing by Juliet Marillier. So Juliet Marillier is an author that I read for the first time in April. I didn't actually finish the book yet. I'm still working on it. But one thing I realized from the little bit that I have read is that Juliet Marillier has a really beautiful writing style. She writes very character-focused, slow-moving plots, but like with a beautiful like world building and imagery and things like that, that I'm excited for. And this is another novel by her that I've been recommended, and then I saw this edition, and this edition is so beautiful, which is why I decided to pick it up, because I really like this edition. So I'm pretty excited for this one. This one's not one that I'm going to pick up in the near future, because I have another series by this author that I'm planning to finish first, but I do plan on getting to this one eventually, hopefully sometime this year. Now for a few novels that I will be getting to very soon. The first one is Half a War by Joe Abercrombie. This is the second novel in the Shattered Sea trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. This is the only series by him so far that's out that I haven't read, because Joe Abercrombie is one of my favorite authors of all time, and I just want to read everything by him. And next week, I'm planning to pick up the first novel in this series, Half a King, so I wanted to have the second novel waiting for me just in case I love it so much that I just want to binge read the series. So the next book I decided to pick up is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. So this is a book that has been on my radar for like 3 years now, and I just haven't picked it up. Mind you, I do have the ebook for this book. We've established on my channel, I think, that I'm really bad at reading ebooks, and really bad at remembering to read books that I really want to read unless they're sitting right in front of me. So I decided to get a physical copy of it because I really want to read this book, but when I have other books that I have physical copies of that I want to read almost as much, I have a tendency to lean more towards those books and less towards this one, and I do really want to read this one. So that's why I decided to get a physical copy of it. I've heard really great things about this one. This is a young adult high fantasy novel. It's following 2 characters named Laia and Elias, and that's kind of all I know about it. I do know that Laia has an interesting personality for like a high fantasy novel because she suffers from like anxiety, I think. So I think that'd be really interesting to see in this kind of setting. So yeah, I'm really excited for this, and hopefully I'll actually remember to get to this one very soon. So the next one is probably a book that I am the most excited for, and that is The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. Oh my gosh, you have no idea the way people talk about this book. I know this could potentially be one of my favorite books of all time. Like, N.K. Jemisin is an author that I've read before. I've read the 5th season by her, and yes, I do realize I need to finish the Broken Earth trilogy, which I will get to, but this is like more contemporary fantasy. Sometimes it's considered urban fantasy, but it makes me think, like the way people talk about it, that it's going to be just like this beautiful, almost magical realism sort of book, which I am so down for. It's set in modern day New York City, and it follows like multiple characters. It just seems like the book that I personally will really love, so that's why I decided to get it, because I bought this full price. Let's just put it that way. I could not find it on sale anywhere, but I wanted this book so badly that I kind of broke my rule of not buying books full price if I can help it, and bought this book anyway because I really wanted it. And a little bit along those same lines, I decided to get Jade City by Fonda. I have been wanting to pick up this book for the longest while, but like I said, I don't buy books full price that often, and I can't find this anywhere for sale, but I just decided to just go for it anyway this week. Cass from What Cass Read talks about this book all the time, and it's one of her favorite books that she's read this year, and every time I watch one of her videos, I'm just like, I need to pick up this book right now. So I decided to pick it up, and I'm really excited to get to it. So this is an Asian-inspired fantasy, and it's like a city fantasy, so it's set in like an actual city rather than like towns and villages and empires and that sort of thing, and I'm really excited for it. Apparently there's some like really great fight scenes in here. I am so down for it. I've heard such great things about this book. Like, I haven't heard a single bad thing about this book, so I'm really excited to get to it. So this next book, it was definitely an impulse buy for me, but I did get it on sale, and that's House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. Yeah, I know. Why do I keep doing this to myself? One thing I have said is Sarah J. Maas is an author that I think writes really fast-paced, easy-to-read fantasy. And this is an actual adult novel. Like, she doesn't write novels for adults normally, and this one is written for adults. I'm hoping that it's really good. Like, I do like her later works a lot better than her earlier works, so I think there is a good chance that I could potentially really like this, and I'm hoping that I do. But this is one that I'm really hesitant about. I'm thinking about reading this one first before going back and reading the Throne of Glass series. Let me know in the comments what you would recommend, because I have read the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, and while I really don't like the first book, I do like the other books in that series, so maybe I'll like this one, because it's like around the same size as A Court of Mist and Fury, right? So it should be good. I'm hoping. I'm tentatively excited about this one. So the next book I decided to pick up is The Curse of Chalian by Lois McMaster Bujold. So this book is a book that I find a lot on like best fantasy books of all time, specifically like standalone fantasy books. So I'm kind of excited about this. It's about a man who returns to a noble house to act as a page to like a princess, and it's kind of like a court political intrigue sort of fantasy, and I'm excited for it. I'm definitely excited to get to this one, and hopefully I'll like it. The next book that I decided to get is The Darkest Road by God Gabriel Kay. This is the third book in the Thienavar tapestry. I have the first book already. I still need to get the second book, but God Gabriel Kay is an author that I'm learning that I like a lot, so I'm really hoping to read more of his works, so that's why I'm slowly collecting them so that I can get more of his books and then I can actually get to reading them. So yeah, I'm excited for this because this is one of his like more pure fantasy series. I haven't heard the best things about this one in particular, but I've heard so many good things about God Gabriel Kay in general that I want to read his works. Next, I got two novels in the Dragon Slayer series, including Dragon Slayer and Knight of the Silver Circle by Duncan M. Hamilton. I've heard some really good things about this series. I don't know exactly what it's about, but I mean, like, dragons. Need I know more? I've heard really good things about this though, so I'm hoping that I'll end up loving it. And also, these are really short, so I'm pretty sure that they're gonna be pretty quick reads, which also makes me excited because it's very rare that you get a high fantasy series like this that's that quick. So yeah, I'm excited for that. So the next book I got was Master Assassins by Robert V.S. Reddick. So this book is definitely a cover buy for me because I've never heard of this book. But look at that cover. I mean, a person riding a giant cat thingy that looks like a cross between a saber-toothed tiger and a lion, but also demonic because look at those eyes. I'm really excited to see what that's about. And it just seems really interesting. Also, it's an assassin book. Need I say more? But if you've read this book, let me know down in the comments what you thought of it because I would love to know more about this book. So the next book that I decided to get is In the Land of Ever Living by Stephen R. Lawhead. So this is the second book in the Erlandia series. I already have the first book in this series, which I plan to read sometime soon. And I'm really excited for it, and Stephen R. Lawhead is an author that I've heard like really good things about. So because of that, I decided to get the second book, so hopefully I'll end up liking them and I can get to the second book right away. This is another one with a fantasy series that is actually surprisingly short. So I feel like this one could also be a really quick read for me. The next book that I decided to get is The Name of All Things by Jen Alline. So this is the sequel to The Ruin of Kings, which I've had The Ruin of Kings on my shelf for like a year and a half. I recently picked up The Ruin of Kings and read the first chapter, and I loved it, like way more than I was expecting to. So I'm really excited to continue reading The Ruin of Kings, and I wanted to have The Name of All Things waiting for me, so I decided to pick it up. But yeah, I'm really excited to get to this book and to get to the series in general because I'm just so excited for it because I have a feeling I could potentially really love it. Kind of along the same lines, I decided to pick up Lady Hotspur by Tessa Grattan. I've heard some really good things about the Queens of Innislea recently, specifically that it has really beautiful writing, but it's also a high fantasy book because like, why couldn't a high fantasy book also have beautiful writing? And it's a King Lear retelling, which I love King Lear. And this is set in the same world, just like years afterwards. And it was on sale, so I was just like, you know what? I kind of want it. And it's so beautiful. Look how beautiful it is. So I decided to pick it up, and I'm excited to get to it. I'm definitely gonna have to read The Queens of Innislea first, but once I read that, then I will definitely get to Lady Hotspur. And I'm definitely excited to get to this series as well. So the next book I decided to pick up is Black Sun Rising by C.S. Friedman. So this book has been on my radar for the longest time, but I didn't know what it was about. I still don't fully know what it is about, but I'm excited to find out. I've heard enough people that really like this book that I definitely want to give it a try. So yeah, I'm excited for it. This is kind of has the like a classic fantasy setup where it's like a group of people that come together to defeat this dark evil thing. I like a good defeating dark evil book any day of the week. So I'm excited for this. And the last book that I decided to get, which is also definitely an impulse buy, is The Light of All That Falls by James Islington. So An Echo of Things to Come is on my TBR for June. And I'm really excited for it because I read the first book in the series and I absolutely love the first book in the series, like way more than I probably should love it, but I absolutely loved it. So I will be getting to an echo of things to come soon, and if I love it as much as I loved the first one, then there's a really good chance that I'm gonna get to The Light of Velvet Falls very soon. So I just decided to pull the trigger and get it, and I'm really excited for it. This is one of those series that, like, the atmosphere is just such, like, your classic high fantasy atmosphere. It brings me back to, like, my just after high school days when I was reading the Wheel of Time series for the first time, but better because, I mean, let's just face it, I really like some of the tropes in here in a way that I wasn't expecting to, or at least in the first book. Hopefully they continue on through to the next books in these series. I don't know if they actually do, but if they do, then I'm gonna love this, and I'm really excited to get to it. So that is all I have for you guys today. If you've read any of these books, let me know down in the comments because I would love to discuss with you guys. I post videos on Sundays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, so consider subscribing. I also post bonus videos, so if you want to be notified as soon as I upload, you can click that little bell icon. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up to support my channel. All social media links are in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.